Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which film is the man in the suit with the wet hair. Joining me today...
I'm a cake eater and I'll decide who sucks around here.
And I'm Luke Morgan, and when the wind blows hard and the sky is black, ducks fly together.
Very good, of course, we're doing The Mighty Ducks, films that I think Luke and I are very big fans of and Conan has no nostalgia for, but that's okay. Boys, how do we feel about watching The Mighty Ducks? Conan, do you want to go first? Do you want to bring us down before we lift us up?
Before we fly.
Yeah, look, let's just preface this now. So this whole podcast is going to be two nostalgic fanboys giving biased, gushing praise upon three films that don't deserve it. And I'm just going to have to be the stoic voice of reason that gets drowned out amongst optimistic delusion.
Didn't you just describe this podcast, though, in general?
Yeah, pretty much. Most episodes do take that form.
Yep.
All right.
No,
Well, Luke...
yeah, they're films you have to see as a kid, and if you don't see them as a kid, they're mediocre at best.
Conan, you hadn't seen these movies before this podcast, had you?
Not at all.
Were you aware of them at all?
Yeah, I feel like everyone sort of knows what they are, and they were kind of like Emilio Estevez's big thing. And I do feel like, especially as a kid going to a video store, you always saw the logos and that image of the hockey mask morphed into a duck face, like that. I knew all that, but I never had an interest, and still retain no interest.
Do you get any joy out of sports movies in general?
No, maybe that's part of it. No, it depends.
Moneyball.
I think I was going to say, I think if it's a good movie, I do. I don't get any joy out of a movie that's just like, look at this sport. And I don't know. I find it strange in a way that, like, as Australians, you guys really love these films as well, because like hockey, especially ice hockey, is completely irrelevant in Australia. We don't play it. It barely exists. It's a big American Canadian thing. And so it's just strange that you guys are like, oh, I love, it's a great sports movie. It's got hockey, and it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like being like, I love this film because it's got polo, because I'm big in the English polo scene. Like, I don't know. I don't get why people would have a connection to this sport in this film.
It is weird. In my defense, I am Canadian. I do have that blood running through my veins. I was born there. I was bred there. And I feel like that's part of what I like about these movies. I remember going to Canada as a kid and my cousins and my uncles saying, like, do you like ice hockey? I'm like, yeah, the Mighty Ducks are awesome. And they all just rolled their eyes. But that's all right. I still enjoyed the Mighty Ducks. If a pro team wants to do the Flying V, I'm there for it. Luke, how did you enjoy these movies?
Well, how did I enjoy these movies?
How did you like them? How was this rewatch for you?
After watching probably about an hour of the first one, I went on eBay and bought a Mighty Ducks jersey. They're one from the second movie. I was torn between their jersey from the first movie and the second, but I have a nostalgic
jersey is atrocious.
It is. The second one.
That duck is disgusting.
The second one's really cool, and I remember like seeing my older brother have that jersey when I was a kid. Like, he was just walking around with that jersey all the time. These movies are something that I remember. Basically, all the scenes. When I was watching them, I was like, there was nothing that surprised me where I was like, I don't remember this. I remembered all three movies like this, and I watched them over and over again when I was a kid. But I honestly have not seen these movies since I was probably 7 years old until like this week, and it all just didn't forget any of it. The only thing I did forget, and don't know why, this whole Hans Jan thing, I don't know what's the whole story there. Why does the actor and the name change for the skate shop owner between
the characters?
But it's the same character, though.
No, it's his brother. In the second one, he's like Jan went back to, or Hans or whoever went back to the old country for the season.
Oh, see, okay, I didn't hear that one line, and I was like, they've just recast him, but changed the name as well from Hans to Jans, and he's playing the same character owning this shop, and then the third one, they go back to Han again, and I was like, okay, well,
they're incredibly consistent movies. Every flaw is explained.
Absolutely. I was so surprised how much these movies held up, and then I was so surprised. I was honestly so surprised at the critical reception when I looked online. It blew my mind because, in my opinion, these are the best 20% Rotten Tomatoes movies I've ever seen in my life. as far as I'm concerned, they're better than the Hobbit movies. As far as I'm concerned, they're better than High School Musical. They're better than other movies we've done. I really enjoyed all of this, as cheesy as it is. I sat there with my wife. We watched them one movie like a night, like for 3 nights in a row, and just enjoyed it. Like some of it's stupid, of course, and like a lot of it is silly and stupid. But it's just, I don't know. I know Conan doesn't like me saying this all the time, but it's jolly. Like it's good vibes. It's just
bad reason.
No, it's just, I don't know. Like Fulton, I've just always had this thing like he's the Bash brother, and like seen him as this thing. Charlie, Coach Bombay, didn't realize how much of an asshole Coach Bombay actually is until watching these movies. And I'm like, he's just a jerk, and his moral compass is all over the place. Like,
I think I'd forgotten how much of a wild man he was at the start, like drunk driving, and like he was just a hotshot lawyer dude. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep, I made a comment at the end of the last podcast where I was like, no, it gets into some serious stuff like alcoholism and stuff. And then the first movie started, and I was like, oh my god, it's actually true. But
it doesn't get into it. It just
he turns good, and then the second movie he turns bad again when some money's thrown his way. Like he doesn't have a great moral code, Coach Bombay, but
or he's a poorly written character, one or the other. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I don't know. And he just leaves the woman in the second movie, just like ditches her. He's like, oh yeah, I should have stayed in contact more. Whatever. Now I'm this Iceland chick, and then this other chick as well that I'm just going to kiss when I come back. It's like he's a bit of a sleazebag. But
yeah, the second one's weird for continuity stuff like that. Can we use these 3 films as a declaration of what's it? I don't know, a move to distrust Rotten Tomatoes then? Because Luke, you're the one who thinks Rotten Tomatoes is objectively the best, which is again a wrong opinion of yours. That's fine. And now you're saying, well, Rotten Tomatoes is severely wrong. So can we use this as the final proof to invalidate Rotten Tomatoes, and we no longer use it?
This was the final proof for me. I can't trust that site anymore as far as I could. Like, it's horrible injustice done to these movies.
All right. I don't ever want to hear you say again then, well, Rotten Tomatoes said this film was good, and so it must be good, because this is it. This is
literally 3 movies with 20% each. Like, I think one of them has 21%. So
24%.
Oh, man.
Before we get into that, my experience is very similar to yours, Luke. Like, haven't seen these movies since I was probably 10 years old. Could remember every scene. Was looking forward to seeing scenes coming up. He's going to do the knuckle puck.
Yep.
It's just, I don't know. Like, I know they're not good movies. I don't think they've aged very well. They don't have much to say, but they were movies I enjoyed as a kid, and I don't know. I had fun going back to them, even if I maybe shouldn't have.
Absolutely.
Even if Conan's gonna call me a man-child for it.
I'm all for owning nostalgia. I'm all for having a soft spot for things that are bad, just as long as there's an internal honesty, and say, hey, this is purely my biased, incorrect view of this. As long as there's no claims that these are great films, or anyone being like, oh, they're actually good in this and this, that's fine.
Look, my first note was nostalgia is a hell of a thing. Like, everything about this was nostalgia. Enjoying this was nostalgia. My wife watched them with me, but she literally sat down for about 5 minutes. The whole thing was just like, yeah, they're fine. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Basically, was her opinion of them.
See,
all right, yeah, my wife couldn't go through them either.
I'll just say my wife had the nostalgia thing for them as well, so she sat down and enjoyed them. My kids, I was like, this is going to be great. They had no interest. Like, my 5-year-old and 3-year-old pieced out and were like, we're not watching this, and just tuned off and played with a box instead. They did not want to watch these films.
I think that's a good point. I don't think these would... I feel like there are some kids' films that will be handled really well by, like, kids of any time. But I think, like, in 2021... in an age where there's just like constant overexposure to YouTube and to everything like this, I just don't think the charm that these films might have had back in the 90s is possibly translates. I feel like these are kind of these dead relics in a way, and it's very rare for a kid, I think, to see this and be like, yeah, this is really cool and fun. I'm invested, unless they're into hockey first.
Yeah,
I think there's a few things that these movies touch on. Like, definitely hockey's a big part of it. I don't know a huge amount about ice hockey, despite claiming earlier that maybe I did. But, like, I don't know if hockey was super popular at the time. But the one thing that I remember from these movies that crossed over into real life was rollerblading. Like, they do quite a bit of that in this movie, and it's kind of cool what they do. Like, they skate through a mall and stuff like that. And, like, in number 2, where he's skating around, blowing his whistle, Like, I wanted that to be me. I wanted to be able to skate around the town. I wanted to have that many friends. I wanted them to skate with me. Like, all these things were goals to me as a kid. And I feel like rollerblading was really, really popular at that time. And I think even kids who weren't into skating or anything like that, I think rollerblading kind of meshed that boundary a bit.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, let's get into stats. So stats are weird for some of these older movies, especially ones that probably didn't have the widest releases. But as far as we have from Wikipedia, my tiny amount of research, the budget for the first movie was $10 million. I'm not sure what it was for the other two, but I suspect it's probably somewhere like that. And first movie made 50 million, nearly 51. Ooh. Second movie made 45, and the third movie made 22 million. So I think they're considered fairly successful. I just don't they're not, I mean, we look at movies and we're like, oh, it didn't make as much as the Avengers, but that's a ridiculous bar to hold them against as well.
I don't think number 3 would be considered successful though. Like 20 million to a 10 million budget would be. I'm pretty sure that'd be considered a failure.
Yeah, it's interesting though. They do Wikipedia declares them as a cult classic. Like, I do feel like these are movies that had a tail. Like, people were interested in the DVDs and the merchandise. I mean, Disney bought a hockey team off the back of these movies,
which blew my mind that Walt Disney funded a team in the NHL that have won a Stanley Cup now. Like, they're a legit team in the competition. It's crazy.
I think they won that after they were sponsored by Disney, but yeah, it's like, I don't know. You don't do that for a franchise that doesn't do very well. So
no, that's true.
And everybody knows that hockey mask shaped like a duck's face. Like, I don't know. These movies had bigger penetration than I guess what these box office rankings give away. Critical response. We don't have much to work on. There is the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, which are all in the 20%. Cinema Score, which I've never used before, gives them all A's except for the final movie, which is an A-. So I'll take that.
That's our new standard.
My new favorite, Cinema Score.
Friggin' hell. Yeah, I couldn't find a Metascore on the second or the third one, which I didn't do any research on it, but I wasn't sure if it was like a direct to DVD thing.
That's what I'm wondering, if they were direct to DVD. I don't know. They're not big enough movies to have a ton of that sort of information around, but
no. But to your point, you're right. I know a lot of people who I've spoken to about this podcast. They've kind of been like, "Oh, when are you doing Mighty Ducks?" And I've been like, "Hopefully never, guys." And here we are. So I think you're right. People did watch these. They were. I mean, it's a testament to Disney, right? Like, Disney in the 80s and the 90s especially, they just had so much power. Everything a kid saw in the 90s was a Disney product, pretty much. And it's a testament to how powerful they were, that they could buy a hockey team. And so I don't think it's necessarily to do with the movie. It's more just to do with Disney. They're like, we will do anything, and we have so much influence in society that we can change it.
I mean, I don't think Disney makes decisions that aren't going to be profitable either.
I mean, profitable in money and profitable in broad reach.
Goodwill maybe.
Yeah. Or influence are two different things. So I think, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but I don't know if I think they see it as a bigger thing than just monetary gain.
And I mean, they weren't the juggernaut. They weren't the corporation that owns every other corporation that they are today in the 90s. They were huge, but not as big as they are now.
Yeah.
All right. Did this deserve to be a trilogy? Conan, I'm happy for you to go first and bring us down every time.
No, I feel like I should go last to kind of
curve
Yeah, exactly. Just so everyone's listening at home goes, "Oh no, that's right. It wasn't actually that great, despite what just happened."
I mean, I'm not sure that these deserve to be a trilogy. I do think 2 of these movies are really good. One third of these movies is not that great, but it definitely reeks of, hey, this first movie did well. People are interested in it. Let's just make a sequel to make the money. Like, I don't think, obviously, there was no overarching plot for these movies. There's no, master behind this masterwork to weave a story throughout the 3 of them. I don't know. If it was one movie, that wouldn't be such a bad thing, I don't think.
No, that's the thing. It didn't need to be a trilogy. One movie, I think it has that. I think number 1 especially has this cult classic thing about it. The theme song, obviously they play it throughout the 3 of them, but even at the end of the 3rd one, they show that final shot from the first one of them high-fiving or fist bumping together again. That's
with the explosion of fire.
With an explosion of fireworks. It's amazing. But I don't know. I like the stories that they tell in all 3 as they get older, and it is that cool thing where you do see the cast get older, and they stick with the same cast. So obviously they add new characters in, but we do see them get older and everything like that. And I don't know, I enjoy the stories and I like seeing them go to college or whatever. Not college, but they're 14 years old there or whatever. But
they do end up at college at the end. But I mean, it is a testament to these movies that it does have the same characters. Like, it is really cool to see them grow up. Puberty is a hell of a thing for some of these characters, but that's all right. And not so much for others. They were probably too old to be going through puberty. But yeah, it was interesting to see them grow up. Conan, tell us why it should have been a trilogy, since you're going to be contrarian to everything we say.
Well, it shouldn't have. No, it shouldn't have been a trilogy. I mean, it's weird though, because this had an animated series and has got a new TV series following after it. So it is a universe that apparently
the DCU.
someone somewhere thinks it can breed. It can breed and stuff. These films have the same plot. Like, they're the same film 3 times.
Yeah.
And the only thing they have going for them is what you guys said. Like, it's cool to see them growing up, and it's kind of fun to be like, oh yeah, look at Joshua Jackson as a little weenie boy, and look at him as a less weenie boy who would one day become Dawson's Creek famous. Like, that's kind of cool. And that's about it. Like, you see the first film, and then you've seen the second. The second one is just like a weird homage to every single like 80s sports film playing on the whole like Red Scare, where it's like, here's this European, like foreign European sports team. It's just like Rocky, and it's because there's that really famous game in the 80s, I think, where I can't remember what sport it is now. I didn't do any research for this.
There's a big sense of defeating communism through everything. It's through sports.
And so for some reason, number 2 has that feel without being they're beating communism, just they're beating the evil Europeans. And then the third one is just the same, is the first one rehashed, but 4 years later.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. And it's like a weird sort of like PTSD thing where I watch these films and I'm taken back instantly to how I felt watching them. But growing up, man, like the Iceland team and like the Iceland coach was just like the most evil you could get. Like them all standing there. I don't know how no one noticed them all standing on the court when the beach ball bounces to him and they just pick it up and pop it. Like pure evil, man. And the way he just pushes Coach Bombay over, like that sticks in my head. Like, I'm like, this is the guy. He had the slick back hair.
It's a cheap shot on him, yeah.
Yeah, and just like smacking Banks's arm, like they're just like pure evil. And growing up, like I didn't like people from Iceland because of that movie. I had a prejudice. I'll admit it. Like, I thought they were all pure evil based off these films. I was wrong.
That sounds like Disney breeding racism.
But yeah.
All right. Well, Luke, do you want to kick us off? Which movie is the worst?
So, I don't even know. See,
really? I feel like this is pretty easy.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts, because honestly, it was like a boom, boom, boom for me, just watching all 3 of them, and I enjoyed each as they were.
D3 is the weakest movie. Mighty Ducks 3 is the weakest movie. The new coach, Coach Orion, he's a poor imitation of Coach Bombay. I feel like it's weird to even have. It's weird how Emilio Estevez is in this movie, but only partially.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
It's weird how number 2 kind of sets up Joshua Jackson's character Charlie becoming like a coach. Like he gives up his ultimate sacrifice in the final game is to not play for the betterment of the team, and then they just totally he never does any coaching stuff again. He's just the captain guy again. He's just the character he was in the first movie again. And the whole conceit of going to getting into this college team is just it's a step down from what they do in the second movie. Like the second movie, in my memory, was the Olympics. They go to the Olympics in the second movie is how I remembered these movies. I know it's the junior Pee-wee, what a Goodwill Games or whatever, but
I always thought it was the Olympics too.
So did I, because they show the Olympic symbol in one scene, and I always remember that. But it's like this college game is a big step down. It feels like a big step down in stakes from defeating the evil Iceland people.
And when you think about it, I would agree with number 3. I like Coach Orion. I think he's performed. I think the actor plays him all right, and I do like the whole thing of what he's trying to get at. Obviously, there's a cheesy scene where they're showing he's actually a good guy. Look, we're just sitting here watching him with his daughter on the ice rink and everything like that. But that's the thing. my main thing with number 2 is I don't understand. It cracks me up, like how much money they're throwing at Coach Bombay to coach this Pee Wee team. If it's not the Olympics, if it is just this like junior Goodwill Games, they're giving him an apartment in Malibu. They're paying him all this money. He's like on the cover of magazines and everything like that. It's meant to be the Olympics, surely. But
yeah,
and like you say number 2. It's in a big stadium. You feel like it's in an NHL game, and there's like heaps of people. And then number 3, it's like at a college's like school ground, that they're playing on. Yep. I feel like maybe with the success, I don't know how number 2 did at the box office. It was obviously a drop down from number 1, and that's maybe why the budget was probably a lot less for the third one, and why Emilio Estevez wasn't in it. Because I can't imagine a reason why he's only in a few scenes other than budgetary reasons.
Mm.
And that would explain a few of the other issues with that, of like the smaller scale and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know. It is weird that he just at the start he's like, I got to take this job. I'm out of here. And then shows up again right near the end, just like, I'm a lawyer, remember?
He shows up several times though. Like
he shows up for the funeral, and then the scene after that, like with the lawyer stuff. But it's really weird. He's out of that most of that movie, and then shows up again for the final dramatic walkout where he just like shakes his head and like fist, but and then walks out. But yeah, Conan
did it again.
What do you think was the worst?
That final scene is very reminiscent of like Breakfast Club, where he's kind of like,
my
work here is done.
Yeah,
funny.
And he did nothing in that movie too.
Yeah, he's got a skill, Emilio Estevez, at being nothing. Anyway, they all kind of blur in. I would probably say number 2 is actually the worst. Like again, 2 and 3, because all right, 2 is almost identically just a rehash of the first one. As in, Bombay comes back and he's got the same sort of thing where his character growth is identical. Where he's like, I'm living for success or whatever. I don't want to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, I forgot what was true. Friends or hockey or something. I don't really know what's magic in his life, but something's magic there that he forgets about. In the third one, it goes to some interesting places. It tries to. It very much tries to like do something a little different and be like, because with what's his name, Fulton, he says that line to Charlie where he's like, maybe I don't want to play hockey forever. And so it kind of brings a sort of finality to it where it's like, hey, we can't just keep doing Mighty Duck stuff and playing teams who are bigger and better than us and winning forever. Things have to change. And it's like, maybe hockey's not all there is. There's this like there is a very slight undercurrent theme of like, just what Orion says it is like, if you take one thing from this, come out, what is it, like a defense in life is a good way to survive or something. I don't know. I'm butchering the quote. Do you know the one I mean? Where he's like,
listen, if you learn nothing else when you're here, you learn this. All right? Because it's not just about hockey. It's easy to be confident when you have control of the puck. It's very, very difficult to keep that confidence when you got to take whatever strange bounces life throws your way. Don't be careless, but don't be too careful either.
Learn how to play defense, because even if or play with confidence or something.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
because even in life, if you have confidence, you'll get through it when you don't have the puck. And so there's a clear thing of like, look, they're trying to transform and be like, life goes on. Whereas the second one isn't that. The second one is just Mighty Ducks 1v2.
And it's awesome.
It's not shit.
It's the most fun movie in my opinion.
Like, that's the thing. The whole Iceland team dynamic and the battle between the coaches. Obviously, there's the coach in the first one, which he cracks me up, popping his collar all the time and chewing his gum. But I don't know, there's just such a classic thing of him fighting against the Iceland coach, and like, he becomes like him and he slicks his own hair back and everything like this, and he loses that about him. But I don't know, I enjoy that whole dynamic of them facing Iceland. It feels like the biggest threat in the series. Like,
but it's so shallow though, because all he is just like this mysterious blonde guy dressed all in black who's just evil.
Yeah,
like he's the most two-dimensional thing in the world.
There's not the connection that he has with the first movie's coach. Like,
no,
the fact that it's the same coach as he had when he was a kid. Like, that's it's a good touch. And like going back to that failed shot all the time is a good touch in the first movie. The second movie doesn't have that heart.
No,
the second movie I enjoy it because I think it is very fun, and they really play up. Like the first movie, they win pretty much everything by a gimmick. Like, the gimmick is the flying V. That's going to win us the game. The gimmick is getting the puck to Fulton because he's going to hit it. It's going to sound like a gunshot and someone's going to get knocked out.
Winding up. Glove save by Segi. Oh, what a save. He'll have the imprint of a puck in his palm after that one.
It's friggin' sound effects.
It's so good.
Yeah. The second movie just dials that up to 11 so that, they introduce the knuckle puck.
It's knuckle puck time.
He winds up. He scores!
They introduce the dude with the lasso, like the figure skater who can dart around. And then they turn it on its head, and the Iceland team they try to do the flying V and they just crush them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the character growth. It doesn't have the interesting stuff that way, but I do think it's a fun movie the way they turn that on its head.
It's fun. We get Portman in. We get the Bash Brothers instead of just...
the Bash Brothers is good.
That's great.
I still quote that, sticks, glove, shirt.
Yeah.
It's good.
That was my motto in school, actually. But
I was like, if I ever get in a fight, I'm so going to do that.
Yeah.
Because everybody in Australia wears gloves.
Exactly. Winter gloves, just chuck them off. And that's the thing. I don't know. I grew up with this whole thing. I remember playing games with my brother, and we'd be like it's the knuckle puck shot, it's a classic thing. It's great. And I like that they go on the street and learn how to play this sort of fun away, like in number 2, and they get, I forget his name now, but with the Russ, it's cool. I like
Kenan Thompson. He's a good actor. He's on Saturday Night. He's on Saturday Night Live. He's on Saturday Night Live now. He had his own Disney show for years. And
obviously Fulton went on to become Daredevil's lawyer buddy.
Yeah.
Which is
a lot
crazy.
of actors, I went through the IMDb of a lot of actors in these movies, and a lot of them went on to at least have decent careers. Compare it to High School Musical, where it was very clear that nobody went on to do anything except for Zac Efron. Like Joshua Jackson, obviously, Dawson's Creek, and has had a career since then.
Yeah.
Marguerite Moreau, Connie, she's in a bunch of have you ever seen Wet Hot American Summer? It's a good comedy, and she's in that. Yeah. And just a heap of them went on to have careers of some sort. Maybe not the most successful careers, and they're not the biggest actors in the world, but they went on to continue to act, which is cool.
Yeah, they didn't just do Disney things like High School Musical actors.
Yeah, Julie the Cat Gaffney, she's in heaps of stuff.
Is she?
Yeah.
See, I haven't followed their careers, but I know that I've seen these people in stuff here and there. Joshua Jackson to me has always been from Mighty Ducks fame, not from Dawson's Creek fame. I've always been hey, he's the kid from Mighty Ducks. But what has she done? Julie the Cat.
So she's actually a chef.
Oh, she's done some
she has a show on the Food Network.
Oh, okay.
And she was in the movie Chef. I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's a pretty good.
I love Chef.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. All right. Sorry, I'm getting bogged down in my love for these actors and how big their careers have been since these movies.
What did Goldberg do? I want to know what Goldberg did.
Poor old Goldberg slipped into substance abuse, but he seems to be going well now, so I'm happy for him.
Did he actually?
I didn't know that.
Oh, didn't you know that?
I was being genuine.
No, his photo floats around on Reddit occasionally because he looks super skinny when he's in the height of his addiction, but he looks quite well now. Seems to be doing better, which is good to hear because I like Goldberg. He's a lot of fun in these movies.
He is,
and it is unfortunate that he had fallen on hard times.
I like the whole it's just a classic scene in number 2 when they're getting them to try on the outfits at the women's store for his mum, and they're just going through all the different outfits, and he's like, no, bikini. It's just, I don't know, that's just been a classic scene that I remember. Yeah, I have seen that photo. That's depressing.
It is sad.
Oh man,
All right, so we're gonna go with number 3 as the worst, or
Conan?
Are you gonna be okay with that? You don't care?
I think 3 is the worst because
3 is the one I enjoy the least.
Yeah, I do like some of the stuff in 3. I like the back and forth pranks they pull on each other, and they get really serious by putting fire ants in their bed. It's really complicated.
I don't know. I didn't love the pranks.
I don't love it, but it's sort of just fun. Sort of thing. It's a bit silly to start with, but I do like them putting the ants in there and everything like that. But yeah.
All right. Well, who's to blame for 3 being the worst?
It's just, it feels weird without Coach Bombay.
It really does.
Did anybody do any research into this? why that happened.
No,
I'm looking at the two fans here. What happened, guys?
I guarantee it's budgetary reasons. I bet he wanted more money than what they were willing to pay, especially if it was like a direct to VHS or whatever at the time. It obviously made a lot less at the box office, but it's weird. Obviously, he's back now for the Disney Plus TV series.
He also has done nothing for the last 20 years.
He's had a weird career. I was looking at it. I was like, he literally did nothing for like a stretch of time. He just kind of.
He's always been the Mighty Ducks. Like, he's always been Coach Bombay to me. Like, that's all I see him as, basically.
Weird. Yeah, he's got this bizarre career.
I think the budget's to blame. Like, the fact that I suspect you're right. That's why Emilio Estevez isn't in it a heap. And it just, like I said, the stakes just feel a lot smaller than any of the, like, even the first movie feels like it has bigger stakes just because of, that's the most important thing to you at that age.
Yeah, that, like, it does, I don't know. It's like, it's sort of like an ego thing almost. And they try and throw this whole thing about they're going to lose their scholarships, but it doesn't feel real. And then it's not even like they're playing for that because Coach Bombay just comes in and takes that away anyway.
With a lawsuit.
He's like, no, you can't do that. And then it's sort of just a pride thing that they're playing for. So it doesn't have the stakes of number 2 and it doesn't have the personal stakes of number 1 with the whole battling against his old coach and showing them that having fun is really the way to play, not about winning.
And I think I think there could have been an interesting movie there if they followed on Charlie's path of being a coach, which I'll get to and how to fix it. But
yeah, there's definitely more. 3 has the most interesting stuff in it besides number 1 probably does, but 3 has a lot of interesting stuff they could have taken a lot further. But yeah, they really didn't touch. I think without having Bombay there as the central character, the film falls apart a bit. Like, it's Charlie as a protagonist is kind of flat, and it's like it's always been Bombay from 1 and 2, and then you got 3. And it's like, well, now we just follow the Ducks without Bombay's central journey. It's very lacking because of that.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, they could have had him there and had him turn into an arsehole again for some other reason, and then him come back around to be a good guy again by the end of it. But they fall back on Hans being that thing that Charlie goes and talks to and seeks advice from and everything, which is fine. I like Hans, but it's, Coach Bombay's, like, it's very noticeable that he's not there. And there's not really a good reason given for it. It's not like he dies. He's like, I've got to get this job. I'm going to take this job.
I think it's all the more noticeable, though, the fact that he like is there, but just not there that much.
Yeah.
Like, if he just was not there at all, it'd be like, well, I understand why he's not there. We can move on. But they keep dangling him in front of us like he's going to come back and actually do something important. Like, he comes back for the funeral. He comes back to show Charlie about, like, Orion's daughter, and he comes back as their lawyer. Just leave us alone. Get out of our lives. Let us move on, Coach Bombay.
And then it's not like he comes back to, like, co-coach the game. Like, he shows up halfway through the game in the crowd. Oh, no, it's after they've won. You just see him as a shot in the crowd. They're, like, nodding to Charlie. But it's like, it feels weird and it feels, like, unexplained almost. So,
All right. Does anyone deserve better in these movies?
I mean, after looking at that photo of Sean Weiss.
Yeah, Goldberg.
He should have never got famous.
I think, I don't know, I like Banks. I've always had like a thing. I've always liked Banks. I like that he's, on this team. He's a Hawk, but they recruit him over to the Ducks and then he plays for them and he becomes a Duck and everything like that. And then number 2, he has the injury and works through that injury, comes back. And then in number 3, he gets picked for varsity. So he's not there, but he has this loyalty. But they turn on him straight away as well. They're like, no. Let's freeze his shirts as well. Like they turn on him straight away, and they keep calling him Cake Eater and all this. But
Cake Eater is the best insult that never took off.
It never took off.
The worst insult. What the hell is a Cake Eater?
I think it means fancy person.
It's so stupid.
I don't know. I asked my wife the same thing. I was like, "What does Cake Eater mean? Why does he keep calling him Cake Eater? Cake's delicious."
And it's said with such enthusiasm, like it's. Hey guys, look how hurtful this is. And like, you sound like a knob.
Stop trying to make Cake Eater happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that dude just keeps going for it. But I liked Banks. Coach, I think all the women deserve better. Coach Bombay just flies from one woman to another and then ditches them, and He promises, "No, I'm going to stay, you and Charlie," and then he just disappears again.
She gets married though. Like, there's a throwaway line that she's married in the second one, and then she's single again in the third one somehow. But
it's so strange.
She's not even in the second one. Though.
No,
you never see her, and he's just like, and they're like, "Yeah, she remarried," and he's like, "Yeah, I really should have stayed in touch." Like,
this is the thing about the budgetary concerns. Like, number 2 feels like it's got a smaller budget because she didn't come back. They couldn't get the original guy who played Han, so they got Jan or whoever. They kind of got like the cheap knockoff of him. It's like that feels like there's more of a sense of like, no one wants to do this crappy sequel. Let's just
number 2's got all like the apartment and the Olympics vibe around it and the Iceland team. I feel like
that's just clever. That's just clever filming.
It feels bigger to me, but
it feels bigger. It has the bigger crowd. Like, it has a big crowd for that final game. It feels like a big NHL game.
Surely Josh not coming back for the same fee he got in the first movie.
No, probably not. Maybe that's it. They couldn't get the others because they're like, we need Joshua Jackson back because he's such a great actor.
Yep. But yeah.
All right. Quick fix. I've got one.
Take it away.
So I think they should have stuck with the Charlie becoming a coach. I think there should have been some, like, keep it at the school. That's fine. There should have been some sort of scholarship system for kids who wanted to become a coach. That was what their interest was. And then keep Bombay there as his mentor. Like, have him there as Charlie's mentor. Have him come in. He doesn't even have to be there that much more than he was. But don't introduce Orion. Keep Charlie there as the coach. I don't know.
Have Charlie take over as coach for the Ducks and start coaching them and learning how to coach. Have Bombay have a moral dilemma again and start coaching the Hawks and he turns into his old coach again, and it ends with a Charlie versus Bombay showdown as coaches.
That actually would be fun too.
And he shows Bombay again the true meaning of life, and Bombay has a come to Jesus moment again. The third movie in a row to complete the trilogy.
He has no backbone, that guy. Did you guys see the original premise for what the first film was? Like the original script idea? It was like, it wasn't really a kid's film. Like, it was about an alcoholic coach sort of coming back to coach this team, but it was a lot darker. It was dealing with his alcoholism and his darker history much more than any sort of fun, flippant kid stuff. That premise works with that original idea.
Yeah.
If he's just this constant failed coach, and by the third film he becomes a villain.
Goes back into his alcoholism.
I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
He's yelling at the kids, if you miss this shot, you let me down, you disappoint, you've lost it for everyone.
And
I'll be the one breaking your hand.
Walking around popping his collar.
All right. Who wins? Which is the best movie?
You can't go past the first one, I feel like.
Yeah. Before coming in here, I was nearly going to go number 2. Like, I have a lot of fun with number 2. I think the Knuckle Puck is a hilarious addition, and I think Russ is really funny.
Yeah.
I enjoy them going to play street hockey and getting their asses kicked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Hans being like, "Who's the man with the wet hair on the TV?" Like, I don't know. I just.
But for every Russ, there's a Texan kid.
Yeah, that's true.
Like half the characters are bad if there are any of them that are
They're
good.
just caricatures of like.
Yeah, and they introduced Julie, and she's literally got 2 scenes. She gets in a fight and gets benched, and
she's so underutilized. Like, they never have the big moment, and you keep expecting it. She's a much better goalie than Goldberg is,
I know.
and they just refuse to use her the whole time.
These movies aren't good to any of the women in them. There,
no,
really, really bad.
And I feel like
Connie is just like the token woman.
And then she gets forgotten about in 2 and 3, I feel like. Yeah. She's just on the bench. And yeah, I don't know. But
they tease that romance between her and Guy in the second movie, and then it just goes nowhere. Like, at the start, they're about to make out, and then Charlie rolls up with his duck whistle and interrupts him.
I was this close, and then that's it for the rest of his life. He's still harping on about it.
I know. I think that's Guy Germain's last line in all the movies, too, because he doesn't show up again either, hardly. There's a lot of characters that just get put on the bench to introduce these new ones who I don't think are that exciting.
No. Yeah.
Oh, man. The Texan dude just gets on there and lassos the guy, and it's just like, oh, God.
Oh, weird.
As far as I know, he literally only did these 2 movies.
I believe it.
He was probably laughed out of his native Texas and now lives in disgrace. Like every time he's running along, he's like, "Get on, little doggy." I'm like, "Oh, I shiver."
As soon as they're like, "Hey, that's practice," and he's like, "All right, this is bills of the last. I'm not again."
Yeah.
Start doing this.
Oh.
But I like that's the thing. I feel like coming into this, most of my memories when I was thinking of the Mighty Ducks movies was number 2.
Same.
Like I remember 2 the most, and I remember watching the one. And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is great," and I sort of remembered as I was watching it. And then when we started watching number 2, I was like, "This is the one I remember. Like this is the one I remember the most, and remember certain scenes from." But one's great.
And the soundtrack, like 2 Queen songs in number 2.
Yep, exactly.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty good.
Like as a young kid, that was how I was introduced to those songs. So like when I remember for years when I heard those songs, that's what I related it to was "We Will Quack You." That's what I thought of straight away when I heard them songs as a young kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I think the story of number 1 with the coach and everything like that makes it the best film, and I think it has the best thing as Bombay being this lawyer, drink driving, have this whole thing about his license plate is like what is it like? It's something about winning. Like he's like the most cheesiest. Like it's like I win or something like that. And the evil lawyer boss just win. Yeah, it's his license plate. You have Ducksworth and everything like that. I kind of like the whole like they redraw the border lines of who's a duck and who's a hawk. And then that night, State of Origin here in Australia did the same thing. A guy got called into Origin the day of Origin, and they pulled him out. They're like, no, he's not actually eligible for Queensland because he moved here when he was 14, not 13. And I was like, it's Mighty Ducks. It was great. But yeah, Mighty Ducks 1 wins it for me. It's good.
It's got really it's like an Ocean's 11 thing as well. But the scenes where they're getting the band together, where they're getting the group together, are a lot of fun. Like in any movie, and I enjoyed in this one where like they find Fulton and he's in the alley like shooting pucks into car windows.
Yep.
Like it's just I don't know. I really enjoy them like assembling their team, getting their team together. It's a lot of fun.
I like the limo driver. In the first one.
He's a good character.
And they don't bring him back. I like him because I remember him from Lost. Like he's Mr. Friendly in Lost, and I'd forgotten about his whole character, but I enjoy that he's part of the team as well. And like the whole Bombay driving out onto the ice when he introduces himself to the kids, and like they're classic scenes as well. But
and then all climbing on it. There's a lot of scenes with kids like with their mouths pressed up against windows in these movies. I don't know if anyone noticed that. And in a COVID world, I felt very uncomfortable about that. But
I was like, "Where's your masks, you heathens?"
Should be sanitizing.
But yeah, no, Fulton in the alley and him like chasing him down and everything like that, and being like, "No, I want to see that shot again." And he smashes the other window of the limo. He's just there practicing, and he's watching him while the taxi driver's still sitting in there. Yeah, no, I really enjoy number 1. Conan, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, but
how good was number 1?
Number 1's the best film, but this is the Hobbit discussion. It's just the best of 3 bad films, in my opinion.
Oh, come
on. They're not good movies.
No, they're not. They're not great. It's all nostalgia. I 100% understand that. Do you think go?
No, you go.
I'm just going to move on. That's all. I don't want to hear your negativity.
Yeah, that sounds pretty typical. La, can't hear you. The first one has the most interesting point. We were texting about this before, and like there is some sort of theme here about overcoming grief, and Bombay has to overcome that. That's got some development there. The other ones are lacking that completely. Like there's loose things of like someone can't be a coach in one, or Bombay again, like we said, just does the same thing all over again in number 2. The first one does feel like there is a real sense of like he's overshadowed by his failures, he's grief-stricken, and this is his chance to actually, to change that. So that's kind of cool. It's your classic sort of, rich, like Ebenezer Scrooge. He's rich and he's successful, but he forgot the true meaning of hockey, which is kids.
Having fun.
I thought it was kids. Okay, and that's about it. Right?
There's the theme of like his trauma from his childhood is passing on to these kids now too. But I mean, as we said when we were texting, this movie doesn't really say anything of meaning about these themes. Like, sure, they exist there, but there's not some great meaningful message to glean from them.
No, exactly. They Disneyfy it. They take the idea and they just make it a very simple, like, look, kids, this is good. And it's like, okay, cool. I understand this very obvious statement now about.
And they punch you in the face with it. Like, just have fun, kids.
And they do lots of great slow motion shots to remind you of how much fun they're having.
Yeah.
There's so much slow mo in these films. It's crazy.
I'll just say something that actually was like a bit disturbing. Mendoza in number 3 is like such a peeping Tom, and he's like treated as the hero of that whole situation. Like he's under the table,
that seems
looking up the skirts, and he like winks to the camera, and then at the end he's just making out with this dude's girlfriend, and he's like, "Yeah, hey."
That's the weirdest part because he's like our little secret, and the jock's like, "Okay."
Yeah, like, and he's like the good guy in it. Yeah. It's like, I don't know.
It's weird.
Even the whole scene of him following after that girl in the hallway, like he walks by, he sees her, and then starts following, and he's like licking his lips, and he's like, look at that. And the jocks push him, and you're meant to be like, oh, the bad jocks, but you're like, no, he's being a bit of a creep.
Not aged well.
Mendoza does not hold up.
All right, do you guys think the Mighty Ducks should have lost one of the finals in these 3 movies? In my memory, they lost one. I couldn't remember which one it was, but obviously that's not what happens.
I always had that thought too. I thought they'd lost, but it was more about not winning, like the
fun they had along the way.
Yeah,
I think in number 3 should have been the case because because again they build on that. Orion even says is like it's better to lose because you learn from loss. You don't learn from draws or something. So they're always hinting at that the whole time that like they're not as good as the varsity, and you can't just because there's that real sense of like the Ducks as an idea are dead, but the team's still there. And so, Charlie can't let that go. He's like, no, we're the Ducks. And Orion's trying to be like, look, just plays this team and you have to learn to be a coach and you have to be more than just that. So the whole time I was expecting it to go that way. I was expecting them to lose and then it'd be an actual payoff. And, Emilio Estevez turns up last minute glowing white and he's like, fear not, my son. You have friends now. And it's like,
just win.
Yeah, it's like, just be better. Get good.
The Messiah turned up. We're okay.
But unfortunately, it goes for the really bad thing of like they score a goal with 1 second to go.
And Goldberg scores it.
Yeah, Goldberg, the guy who gets more attention in all of these movies than he deserves.
Correct.
Like he's not a better goalie than Julie, but he's still in it. Like
he's just fast talking. The first one does have my. Oh, you go.
I'll just say, like, I agree with you. I think 3 is the one where they should have pulled the trigger, especially since it's the last one as well. And it is that whole thing of we can move on from here. Like,
yeah, maybe it feels like a sour way to end the trilogy, but
have it end like something better. I don't know. Like, I don't know how you do it, but they need to lose one of them, and they can't lose the first one, even though it has the whole winning about not like the whole meaning of it's not about winning. They do need to beat that coach. I feel like,
and Charlie needs to not miss that shot.
Yeah, and have the old coach get so excited or he has a heart attack or something like that. And say it's not about winning, it's about having fun.
The first one where he's like, what happened to your old coach? And he's like, he grabbed his arm and he's acting out a heart attack. It's so good.
Yep.
I forgot to mention this, but the first one has one of the things I hate the most. It has that dumb trope where all the dramatic tension lies on characters mishearing other characters. Because Bombay's like, he's talking to the coach, he's like, oh yeah, we're failures, yeah, they're no good. And he's obviously being sarcastic. Yeah. And the kids mishear it, like, he hates us, guys. And he just, for some reason, he's just like, no, that's not what I meant. It's like, just say, guys, you misheard me. Because then he explains it later on. He's like, no, I was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Why does he, it frustrates me so much when that's the whole driving tension there.
It's very overused. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I guess it's easy for kids to be like, it's an easy thing for kids to get.
They don't listen, so.
But number 2 has my favorite trope, which is there's nothing in the rule book against this. When they change the uniforms, that's the best reason for anything to happen in a movie. They change their uniforms to the Ducks uniform halfway through, and they're like, "There's nothing in the rule book that says they can't do this."
And then in number 3, they just add Portman to the team halfway through. They're like, "We got an extra player. He has a scholarship here." It's like, just halfway through, he hasn't been in the whole movie. We didn't even see him at the start. We heard a line that he's moved away or not doing it anymore. Then he shows back up again.
It's an academic, like he's out of school. You don't just get to turn up to a college halfway through the semester. Like it's
yeah. Or halfway through a game. You don't get added to a team. It's that easy against the rules. You can't just add a person to your team. Oh, God. But, yeah. Fun was had with these movies, but, yeah.
Yep, I agree. I had fun. Like, I'm 100% aware it's nostalgia. I 100% know they don't have anything super meaningful or interesting to say about anything, but they tickle my nostalgia bone. Does anyone have anything else they want to add about these movies before we move on to something Conan will enjoy?
So my point that these films suck, as all the points we've raised about why these will become better films, is like this all speaks to a trilogy that is not riddled with like nostalgic childlike wonder. The whole does the team lose, the stuff they kind of build on, the theme of grief, all of that like really works well in an interesting sports trilogy about like a washed up coach trying to bring this like crappy sports team back and like learning lessons along there. So I actually think these films become good films if you remove the kids and make it not a childlike hockey film. Just make it like an actual sports drama. But you guys need the nostalgia. You want to keep your sense of fun.
Oh no, fun.
I'm keen to go watch the Disney Plus original series because
so am I.
It's got 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and
are you hearing yourself?
Okay, I know, but I'm just saying these are the same people that gave the movies 20%, and if they think this is 90%, and if I think the movies are 50%,
by
that
your
must
logic,
make the show 140%.
No, that makes the show 30%.
Because
and the film's 80%.
I like the whole sound, but it sounds like this whole thing that the Mighty Ducks have become what they hate, that they're the Hawks now, and they're the ultra competitive like team. And I don't know, I think it could be interesting. So I'm going to watch that.
Luke and I are going to have a podcast on the Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
Yes. Yeah, well, we don't want to watch
it. We're having less listeners than this one.
That's fine. All right. Conan, what are we doing next week? What are we going to do that you will enjoy?
I don't know. I didn't really think this far ahead. Then a few minutes before it started, I sort of think I had to remember one. I'm just going to double check and make sure it is on a streaming service, so there's no drama there.
Well, while you do that, who should Dennis Franz have been in these movies? I always forget this category, even though I was the one that introduced it.
I don't know. I would have him as Portman, Bash brother.
Yeah, I had. So he could have. He could have been the corporate shill from the second movie. You know, the
Tiddles.
Yeah, Tiddles.
Tipples.
He could have been the limo driver from the first movie.
Yeah, that works.
I like the limo driver.
No, I love MC Gaining. I think he's great.
Make him Tibbles. He can be.
Well, the
Tibbles.
enemy coach in the first movie. He could have played that guy too.
Yeah,
I reckon Dennis Franz would look really good in a vest, like a coach's jacket. I think he could rock that look pretty well.
Probably could.
He could also be like, have him through all three as like Barnes or something like that instead of having Hans and Jan. He can just be the skate shop owner that gives them wisdom.
Yeah, the magical old man. Yeah, that would have worked. Do you guys have Binge or no?
Yeah,
I do as of last week. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then that means we're doing John Wick.
Oh, sick.
Ooh, cool.
Great trilogy. One of the best modern action trilogies.
Sticking with your art house roots, Conan.
We've had a lot of obscure episodes that our fans have complained about. No one wanted Mighty Ducks. No one wanted Hobbit. No one wanted High School Musical.
Excuse me, High School Musical is doing very well.
We've given the masses what they want.
You watch Mighty Ducks blow up with the Duck fan base, man. It's going to have a following, and there probably isn't many Mighty Duck podcasts out there. But no, I'm keen for John Wick. There's definitely a good movie in there.
I actually haven't seen all of 2 or number 3 at all. So,
lucky.
And I like number 1. Number 1's great. So
yeah,
I'm keen to watch them. No, maybe they won't be as good, but
they're all fantastic.
He's great. Number 1 is great. Yeah.
Look, I don't get how one man can have such weirdly bad opinions.
We'll get into it next time on Good, Bad, Worst.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode. Catch us on iTunes and subscribe and rate us. Share us with your friends and family, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya, cake eaters.
Quack or something.
Quack.
Quack. Quack.
Quack. Quack. Quack. Quack.